Rachael Singer is the founder of Moving Hearts and a certified dance movement therapist, helping children deal with their emotions and supporting the parents in the process. Hello, Rachael.
Hello, Dina.
It's so great to have you here. So, Rachael, could you tell us a little bit about the beginning, how you got into dancing and Floortime and
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here. So I grew up very lucky that my family followed my interests, and I grew up dancing, in a tutu around the living room. And also my dad has a passion of Afro-Cuban music. So I grew up going to African dance classes at a very young age and being exposed to that, as well as theater and musicals. So I think, and then in addition to that, my parents were a lawyer and doctor. So I really saw the importance of helping people, right, and giving back to the community. So as a young kid and adolescent, I grew up I did my own musicals. I did a lot of dancing on my own, but it wasn't really until college that I ended up pursuing child development and started teaching preschool at San Francisco State University, and we had an on-site preschool, which was just fantastic. So I could really learn alongside of my observations and experience. And there is when I started seeing how we can actually incorporate yoga and movement, with the kids. And so then as I got older, I started exploring more yoga, mindfulness, free form movement, such as like 5 rhythms, ecstatic dance that wasn't as structured. And that really spoke to me in my heart. and African dance as well. And then again, aligned with working with kids. And I was always very connected and called to working with the children that had more difficult and challenging behaviors. Mm-hmm. And then this continued in one preschool that I worked at, there was a mental health consultant on site, and I worked directly with him with one child. And that just really lit this bulb for me of I want to do more therapy. And we had a dance studio there. And so I would take a small group of kids to the studio and just let them explore with a wide range of music. And I saw the children that had, quote unquote, weren't listening or difficult behaviors or actually had diagnoses of autism. I just saw them shine. I saw their essence come out. And afterwards, they were able to really sit down and do group circle time and socialize better. And I was like, what's happening? So that ended up me pursuing dance movement therapy. When I found out about that, it was another aha moment. And then in my schooling, in my master's at Sarah Lawrence is where I started learning about Stanley Greenspan and Serena Weider, who created DIR Floortime.
Wow. So how would a session be going? You'd be doing Floortime, and how would you be combining the dance into the Floortime actually?
Yeah, so I really think of it as dance movement therapy as my lens. So I'm following in the session with a child, I'm following their lead. Maybe we're just playing their game of cars, right? Going back and forth. And I'm noticing maybe it's very horizontal movement. Mm-hmm. So then I join them and mirror them in that. So that's a dance therapy technique and DIR. And then I might add in, what happens if we go up, right? So then I'm incorporating more movement with their interests. So that's one way. Another way is some kids who just love dancing and love music. We just dance and move together, right? And I incorporate, and again, that's incorporating their interests as well as which is the dancing, right? And then kind of supporting them and expressing any feelings that come up for them.
So most sessions would be like a one-to-one or group sessions?
Both.
And nowadays with the Zoom, Can you actually do it on Zoom?
Surprisingly, yes. I feel very fortunate that I was able to help kids through Zoom. And basically, I think because I was following their lead and I wasn't saying this is what we have to do and it wasn't structured, and it's movement, so we don't actually have to do much talking. It just really is organic. So we put on, I like to find out their favorite song, or I just, however they start, kids are moving always, right? So I just join them in that. So sometimes they'll start wiggling and I'll be like, oh yeah, let's get our wiggles out, right? And then maybe we're incorporating, let's pretend to be the rain and the weather. And so we're getting some regulation and soothing through movement. And so just I use imagination a lot as like movement journeys with children through Zoom.
Sounds awesome. And what is actually the meaning of moving hearts?
Yeah, so really, I came up with that idea when I was in undergrad, but really the idea of, I have it capitalized for arts, right? So really my main goal was to support moms and children in connecting through movement and through, really supporting them to bring that positive relationship and to work on that, and really using the arts, so music, dance, art, drawing, painting, writing, maybe some sensory exploration as well.
And how do you actually support the moms in this process?
Yeah, so I first have a call with a mom, and just really just listen to them and what their concerns are for their child or for themselves. And then it usually is really, I want you to help my child, right?
Exactly.
And that's what I'm here for, but I'm also really here to help them as well. So listening to them. Yeah, go ahead.
Especially when I think most moms for kids on the spectrum suffer from a post-traumatic or some kind of trauma themselves.
Yes, exactly. And the body holds everything and holds trauma. So it's a really great access point to work together through releasing that.
So would the session be with the mom and the child together, or mom separately and children separately?
Really depends. I open that up. I give them options of what is it that they want. So sometimes it is where the parent joins our session in the beginning and comes in at the and then leaves and then comes in at the end. Or sometimes it's the whole thing, right? With the mother and the child or a parent. Yeah.
And how would you say is the best way to help kids who have difficulty, with knowing how to breathe in order to relax? So what else can we actually do?
Great question. So there's a lot of, one is co-regulation, which for people who may not know this term, it's being that other caregiver or whoever that is, and modeling and supporting them in that breathing, right? So just me doing that is probably going to activate your mirror neuron to want to do it as well. So the first step is, if you can tell your child is getting dysregulated or having a hard time, right? You might just be like, oh, this is hard, right? That's one way. Another is using imagination. So let's pick a dandelion from a garden, or what kind of flower do you want to pick? And then we smell the flower and then blow out the petals. Or, some people like to pick the flower, smell the flower, and blow out the candle. I like to keep it connected for children that are concrete. Or blowing a balloon, right? Or make a pretend cake. And so in that process of, we're stirring, we have to wait for the cake to be made, we want to blow. So I just kind of weave in the breathing. And then for children that, maybe are more available and it's developmentally appropriate, you can actually teach them about the brain and body and say, when we are feeling frustrated, when we're feeling stressed or angry or anxious, we stop breathing. And when we get back into breathing, it promotes oxygen, right? And we can be more regulated and be engaged with others, right? So and again, in language that works for that child.
Exactly. And what would be your tips on how to start doing yoga or meditation with kids?
Yeah, so one again is modeling and doing it for yourself. Your child's going to be interested. What are you doing, mommy? Right? Downward dog, they might just letting them be a part of your own practice is one piece. The other is there's a million amazing books out there that have yoga for kids. So that is another tool. And guided meditation, and just, again, using imagination to support even with meditation. So imagine we're walking through the forest, right? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you feel? And you're just exploring that with them, letting them guide you too. And then what's happening in the body, right?
Exactly. And how should parents detect that actually their children are beginning to get into a stress mode, before it actually explodes?
Great question. I actually have a blog post on this as well on my website. You can see it through tension in their bodies. So, well, a few ways, right? Everybody's different. So one way might be your child might be like tightening up, shoulders up, tense muscles, that kind of thing, or even their face looks tighter. Some children might be like in flight mode, right? So we have fight, flight, freeze as a stress response. So they might be just running all over the place. They might be climbing up your body, trying to get some input, trying to feel safe. Freezing and not knowing what to say, or that kind of thing. And again, or aggression, right? So if they're starting to hit or bite, that's communicating that they are needing something, and probably to start connecting with them and doing some of these modeling, attunement strategies that I've talked about.
Exactly. And I understand you also do we mentioned that the sessions for parents. So what do you think would be the main challenges that parents for kids on the spectrum are facing?
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a ton that I'm not even aware of because I'm not a parent. But what I have seen is, I think there's a struggle of really knowing what's best for them, managing all the things, what the child's behavior and what they're needing, and then chores and work, right? Time management. And then another piece is relationships. So your spouse, maybe the way that the parent sees the way that their child needs support might be different than the way your spouse does. And so that might create some tension. Another thing that I often see is just still dealing with the grief that your child isn't typical, and maybe you have a sibling, another child that is, and so you struggle with that, or you have two kids on the spectrum. So dealing with the grief that your child isn't what you thought they would be.
Exactly. And Rachel, do you have a YouTube channel or anything? Because just speaking to you, I can see the wonderful energy that you're giving. And I was thinking that just watching you on YouTube could just calm so many parents and so many.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have one, but I will be honest, I have not been, active on it, but maybe I will. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's really, calming. And a lot of times, to do floor time, we need a lot of energy. And sometimes parents feel so depleted of the energy and they're not able to give what you actually give. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think what I hear too from what you're saying is there's an energy, and that you do need to have that with your child
yeah,
on the spectrum or neurotypical, but also that combination of calmness.
exactly.
And for me, meditation and mindfulness really helps me get regulated and
Yes,
moving my body. So, I think the more that we do that, the more regulated that we are as the adult will really help, like over time, your child feel more regulated because they can feel our stress.
yes. They know to read us so well, even if it's without words, they know our expressions, our eyes, our facial muscles, everything about us to detect in which state we are actually in.
Exactly.
So, for example, when you'll have a child with extreme behavior issues, how would the session be like? Like, I know you mentioned the cards, but if we're talking about a kind of an imagination or some sort of game like that, how would you describe the session?
Yeah. So I'll share with you without saying the name of a client that I've worked with in the past, where the session is going really well. We're putting there's music on, we're playing, we're talking back and forth, right? And then all of a sudden, they just become dysregulated and become upset, and are like stemming and moving their body and rocking back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pick up on those cues and I stop talking. I change my affect, right, with my face, and I slow it down. And I just say, it looks like you're really frustrated. And I start embodying and mirroring what they're doing, but on a very small level, right? I'm not going as fast as they are, or what, this is what one child was doing. I'm not,
Yeah.
imitating. But I'm starting to just kind of join them,
Mm-hmm.
and then letting that just be. And so we're not really even, I'm not like, we're not doing anything. Like again, I might stop talking completely and I might just be with them. And this shifted the session for this child in particular, where they felt seen, they felt heard, right? I just said one thing, you seem frustrated. That is frustrating. Maybe I forget if it was that I put on a song that they didn't like, or something happened and I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
But I just stopped, I turned off the music, and I changed my way of being and met them where they were, and they started calming down.
Wow, that's amazing.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Certainly it did. And what would you give the parents as homework? I mean, because it's not enough just to see you, once a week or whenever they see you. So what do they do during the week at home with the parents that can help?
So one client in particular, we have this nice rhythm where actually, like every hour, right before our session starts, I check in and say, how was the week, right? And then they let me know, this is what I'd like you to kind of focus in on. My child's been really scared of going to the bathroom. And so then in the session, I approach that when it feels right, and I give the child some tools. So then afterwards, I let the parent know, this is what we're working on, right? So we talked about it a little bit. She came up with the idea of doing some big deep breaths and tapping her body
Mhm.
before she goes into the bathroom. So I said, if you can do that with her, as often as possible, even when she's not upset, right? Because that's when our brains can understand the information. So I give the tools and say, can you focus in on this during the week with them, and then let me know how that goes.
Great. So, and Rachel, how can parents contact you?
So I have an Instagram. I'm sure you'll put this on there,
Yes.
Dana. So I have my website on there, and you can book, or actually right on Instagram, you can click book and book a call. And it's called a cosmic care call with me, and for 15 minutes, and then we would just go from there.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed your energy, and I enjoyed talking about Floortime. I mean, just sort of mentioning it together with dance, and I'm sure that so many kids can benefit from this wonderful combination.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. And your energy is amazing too. I feel like lifted up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I
You're
really enjoyed
welcome.
it.
And I hope you stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
So bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.